In the dusty heart of West Texas, where the sun baked the earth into cracked clay and the wind whispered secrets through the mesquite trees, lived Reverend Elijah Hawthorne and his only daughter, Amelia. The town of Redemption was a speck on the map, a place where faith was the law and sinners were cast out like tumbleweeds. Amelia, with her auburn hair cascading like a river of fire and eyes as blue as the endless sky, was the epitome of purity. At 22, she had been raised on hymns and sermons, her world confined to the whitewashed church and the modest parsonage beside it. Menfolk admired her from afar, but none dared approach the preacher's daughter, not with Elijah's fiery gaze watching over her like a guardian angel with a shotgun. That all changed the summer the giant cowboy rode into town. His name was Harlan Buck McCade, a towering figure at 6'8", broad as a barn door, with hands like weathered leather and a voice that rumbled like thunder over the plains. Buck wasn't from around there. He hailed from the wilds of Montana, where men wrestled bears and tamed mustangs with sheer will. He'd come south chasing work on the oil rigs, but whispers followed him like shadows, tales of bar brawls, lost loves, and a past stained with blood from a duel gone wrong. His Stetson hat shaded a face etched with scars, and his boots kicked up dust that seemed to linger longer than most. Amelia first saw him at the general store, where he loomed over the counter like a mountain come to life. She was there buying flour for her father's Sunday bread, her simple calico dress fluttering in the breeze from the open door. Buck's eyes met hers across the shelves, and in that instant, the air thickened. He tipped his hat, his lips curling into a grin that was equal parts charm and danger. He drawled, his voice low and gravelly, sending a shiver down her spine she couldn't explain. She nodded politely and hurried out, but fate, or perhaps something more sinful, had other plans. That evening, as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in hues of crimson and gold, Amelia walked the dirt path to the church to prepare for prayer meeting. A sudden storm brewed on the horizon, dark clouds rolling in like an omen. Thunder cracked, and rain began to fall in sheets, turning the road to mud. She sought shelter under an old oak, but the downpour was relentless. That's when Buck appeared, astride his massive black stallion, Thunder. He spotted her huddled there, drenched and trembling. Without a word, he dismounted, his long duster coat flapping like wings. "Climb on, little lady," he said, extending a hand that could engulf hers twice over. Amelia hesitated, her father's warnings about strangers echoing in her mind. But the rain pounded harder, and something in his eyes, a flicker of loneliness amid the storm, pulled her in. She took his hand, and he lifted her onto the saddle as if she weighed nothing. They rode to the parsonage, the horses hooves splashing through puddles. By the time they arrived, Amelia's heart raced not from the cold, but from the warmth of his body pressed against hers in the saddle. Reverend Hawthorne opened the door, his face a mask of suspicion. "Who is this?" he demanded. "Buck McCade, sir. Just seeing your daughter home safe," Buck replied, unfazed. Elijah eyed him warily but invited him in for coffee, manners overriding mistrust. As they sat by the fire, Buck shared stories of the open range, of stars so bright they pierced the soul, of wolves howling in the night, and the freedom that came with a life unbound by walls. Amelia listened, entranced. For the first time, she saw beyond Redemption's borders, her spirit stirring with a longing she hadn't known existed. Days turned to weeks, and Buck lingered in town, taking odd jobs at the rigs. He attended church services, sitting in the back pew like a giant among ants, his presence drawing stares. Amelia found excuses to cross his path, at the well, the market, the edge of the fields. Their conversations were innocent at first, scripture verses, the beauty of wildflowers, the taste of fresh-baked pie. But beneath the words simmered an undercurrent, electric and forbidden. One moonlit night, after a revival meeting where Elijah preached fire and brimstone about temptation, Amelia slipped out to the barn behind the parsonage. Buck was waiting, as they'd secretly arranged. The air was thick with the scent of hay and horses. He towered over her, his shadow engulfing her slight frame. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Neither should you," he replied, his breath warm on her cheek. "But here we are." He pulled her close, his massive arms wrapping around her like a fortress. Their first kiss was tentative, a brush of lips that ignited a fire within her. But Buck, ever the storm, deepened it, his hands roaming with a gentleness that belied his size. Amelia melted into him, her innocence yielding to a passion she'd only read about in forbidden novels hidden under her bed. As the nights blurred, their meetings grew bolder. In the shadows of the old windmill, beneath the vast Texas sky, Buck taught her the language of desire. "You'll take every inch until you can't walk," he murmured one fateful evening, his voice husky with need, as he laid her down on a blanket in the tall grass. It wasn't a threat, but a promise. a raw declaration of the intensity he offered, body and soul. Amelia, the preacher's daughter, surrendered completely, her cries mingling with the coyote's howls. In his arms, she discovered ecstasy, but also vulnerability, as his sheer power overwhelmed her senses, leaving her breathless and spent. Yet, love in the shadows is a fragile thing. Whispers spread through Redemption like wildfire. Elijah heard the rumors first from the church elders, his daughter seen with the giant stranger, her cheeks flushed, her eyes distant during prayers. He confronted her in the kitchen, his Bible thumping on the table. "Have you forgotten who you are, child?" The devil tempts with sweet words and strong arms. Amelia's tears fell like rain. "Papa, it's not temptation. It's love. Buck, he's good, deep down. He's shown me a world beyond these walls." Elijah's face hardened. "That man is a wanderer, a sinner. He'll break you, Amelia." The confrontation came to a head at the annual town rodeo, where Buck entered the bull riding contest to prove his worth. The crowd gasped as he mounted El Diablo, a beast known for breaking men. Amelia watched from the stands, her heart in her throat. Buck rode like a legend, his body twisting with the bull's fury, holding on for 8 endless seconds. But as he dismounted, the bull charged, goring his thigh with a vicious horn. Blood soaked the dirt, and chaos erupted. Amelia rushed to his side, heedless of the stares. "Buck! Oh God, Buck!" she sobbed, cradling his head. He grinned through the pain, his hand cupping her face. "Told Wire I'd take every inch of fight in me for you, darling." Elijah arrived, pushing through the crowd. Seeing his daughter kneeling in the dust, her dress stained with blood, something in him cracked. But instead of rage, he knelt too, praying over the wounded giant. "Lord, if this man is meant for my girl, heal him. Show me the way." Buck survived, his leg mending slowly in the parsonage under Amelia's care. In those weeks, walls crumbled. Buck shared his past, the duel that killed a man in self-defense, the guilt that drove him from home, the search for redemption he'd never voiced. Elijah listened, seeing echoes of his own youthful sins before the cloth. "We all wander, son," the Reverend said one night by the fire. "But grace finds us." Amelia and Buck's love deepened, no longer hidden. She nursed him back to health, their touches tender now, laced with promises of forever. When he could stand, he proposed under the same oak where they'd first met in the rain, a simple ring forged from a horseshoe nail. "I ain't perfect, Amelia, but I'll love you fierce, every inch of my soul, till we can't walk no more." The wedding was a town affair, Elijah officiating with tears in his eyes. Redemption, once rigid, softened under the story of the giant cowboy and the preacher's daughter, a tale of forbidden fire turning to enduring light. They built a ranch on the outskirts, where Buck tamed the land and Amelia raised children with her father's faith and her husband's wild spirit. Years passed, and as grey streaked their hair, they sat on the porch watching sunsets. Buck's arm around her, he'd whisper, "You took every inch of me, darling, and I wouldn't have it any other way." Amelia would smile, her heart full, knowing their love had weathered storms, touched souls, and proven that even in the harshest lands, redemption blooms. But life, like the Texas plains, holds twists. One winter, a blizzard hit hard, isolating the ranch. Buck, ever the protector, rode out to check on stranded cattle. Hours turned to days. He didn't return. Amelia, frantic, rallied the town. They found him frozen in the snow, his body shielding a newborn calf. He'd given every inch, his strength, his warmth, his life, to save what he could. Amelia buried him under the oak, her grief a vast ocean. Yet, in the pain, she found power. She took over the ranch, raising their kids with stories of their father's giant heart. The town revered her, the preacher's daughter who tamed a legend. Her sermons at church, delivered in Elijah's stead after his passing, spoke of love's fierce grace, of how it demands everything, leaves you unable to walk the old paths, but grants wings to soar. In the end, Amelia lived to 90, her legacy etched in the land and her descendants. On her deathbed, surrounded by family, she whispered Buck's words, a smile on her lips. Their story, powerful and heart-touching, echoed through generations, a reminder that true love isn't gentle, it's a storm that reshapes you, inch by inch, until you're forever changed.